Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. It's Sarah, and I am back with another reading wrap up. I know I do a lot of reading wrap ups. It's what I love to do. And it's the new year, it's a new day, and I'm going to keep doing it because it keeps working. For me, anyway. So, again, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about the books that I read December of 2023. I waited until the beginning of January because there was a couple of books that I was hoping to finish in December that came out kind of late, and I've not finished them. So I will be finishing them in January, and then I'll be talking about them in my next month wrap up video. So it's all good. Let's talk about the books I did read. Okay. So if you're new to my channel, welcome back. Well, welcome. And if you are a repeat viewer, thank you so much for being here. Welcome back. Let's talk about the hair for a second, shall we? Okay. I did a thing. I got a waving iron like a while ago. I've had this thing for a while, like we're talking years. And I think I've used it 2 times. And it's hard to use. So I figured, why not, instead of filming, why not wave my hair out and then film? I've got like 2 other videos to film. So we'll see when these actually get posted. So, but I don't know. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. My hair's in need of a cleanse, so I figured why not just do something with it. Well, it's like kind of crunchy and can hold the shape. So, all right, let's get into the books. All right. So this month I read 10 books, and I actually did not complete my TBR. It is not that surprising. I don't know that anybody completes their TBR. I have, I think, a couple of times completed my TBR, but not recently. So this is not one of those months, which is fine. But I'm excited to kind of share about some of the books that I read because some of these are really surprising and some of these are, disappointing. But let's get into it. So again, like I said, I read 10 books. 3 of those I did listen to on Audible. Actually, 2 were Audible. One was Everand, which is the new Scribed. Everand bought Scribed, so there's no longer a Scribed app. It is now Everand. So we'll talk about that. So the first book that I finished in December was Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. Now, we know this book is blown up, and for good reason, because it is excellent. It's an excellent book. So let's talk about it. So I did listen, like I said, I did listen to this on Audible. This was a story about Sloane and Rowan, and they are serial killers who become friends who fall in love. So it was such an awesome read, super unexpected, duet narration, meaning as opposed to like dual POV. So duet narration, I believe this is when the male voices the male, the female voices the female, regardless of whose point of view, like what chapter it is in. So you never had the male narrator trying to sound like female. So it was just, I so love that. And it's so in the minority. And I wish that more books were narrated that way. So Sloane and Rowan meet at the site of a bad guy who they both come to kind of unalive, if you will. And Sloane is captured and Rowan lets her out. Now, Sloane has gotten a name for herself, and so has Rowan. Rowan is known as the Butcher of Boston. And I can't remember what Sloane's kind of name is, but they're both like famous to each other. And so when they meet, there's kind of there's a connection there. And the banter starts immediately. They become friends who engage in an annual challenge to see who can unalive a bad guy first. That's the way that I'll summarize that. So their like relationship does span a few years, but they don't see each other but once or twice a year. So it's kind of how that goes. But again, this book was amazing. It was 5 stars completely. It was awesome. I laughed. It was emotional. Just I think with any book in romance genre where there's a female serial killer, she's got justifications for killing people. So this is no different. Rowan, I think, also has justifications, but it's different. It's just different than Sloane's. So it's fine. He's kind of an anti-hero, I guess, that way. But their connection, their chemistry, their kind of love for one another really develops and is unfolded, I think, really effectively. So I just loved it. It was great. I can't wait for the next book, which is called Leather and Lark, and that doesn't come out until I think like June of 2024. What's it? Hate that. But anyway, this was awesome. Go get the audiobook. If you don't like audiobooks that much, I guarantee you'll like this book because it was awesome. So pretty spicy too. So 5 stars. So the next book I finished in December was Strong and Wild, which is book 2 in the Lakes hockey series by Sloane St. James. Now this story follows Freya and Rhys. Now Freya goes by Mickey in the story as well. So she is the best friend that we met in book 1 before we came. And Rhys is, I think he's a rookie. He's like really focused on performing this season so that his contract can get extended. So they have a really interesting kind of relationship because he's really focused on hockey and she's focused on earning as much money as she can so she can open a bakery because she wants to do she studied that in school. So she's like a trained pastry chef. She's bartending now at the hockey bar that's below the apartment where she lives and also where Rhys lives. She was like hooked up with one of the kind of like apartments that are reserved for hockey players, kind of in the upstairs from this bar. So Rhys and Freya are actually neighbors. And one of the ways that she makes money is she is a performer on like an OnlyFans kind of site. And she goes by the Queen of Tarts. So she will bake topless and she has subscribers and Rhys is one of her subscribers, but she doesn't show her face. She's just got like her body on and she kind of is making different desserts. That's kind of his outlet because he's so focused on hockey that he doesn't like try to date or I don't even think he really kind of takes any women home, period. Because he's like all about hockey. So because he finds out pretty quickly that she's the Queen of Tarts and he's like, oh no, I really like the Queen of Tarts and here she is in person and she's like really beautiful and oh yeah, she's the bartender at this bar I go to all the time that's like at the ground floor of my apartment building and oh yeah, she's my across the way neighbor, oh no. So they start to interact pretty quickly in the story and he actually figures out that she's the Queen of Tarts pretty quickly and sees her all the time and just kind of like, oh, this girl is like always in my face. And they don't like each other right away because he's kind of a jerk to her. Just like kind of cocky, kind of for whatever reason. I don't remember exactly what his rationale was, but she's like, screw you. I don't need this, whatever, go away. So they have that kind of like contentious banter. And then pretty quickly, they kind of shift to be kind of more friends who start to kind of get it on. So they get it on and it's pretty steamy. This series is pretty steamy. So just know that going into it. One of the things that's really interesting about their connection is that Freya's former boyfriend had actually passed away from a drug overdose. And she had been living with this person when he OD'd and when he was in the thick of his addiction. Now, Rhys's sister is a heroin addict. So Rhys and Freya are friends by the time his sister kind of comes back into the kind of the mix. And Freya / Mickey is really kind of hesitant to really get involved, like too involved because she needs her boundaries. And, she warns him not to kind of trust his sister. She's addicted to heroin. Like you can't trust addicts. and like kind of gives him some kind of tips of what to do, and at the same time helps the sister when she needs it, because she knows what to do when Reese doesn't. So it's a really interesting story in that it's like pretty layered, and there's some really emotional aspects to like these characters' lives that they can come together. That, you know, I thought it was really, really good. I do really like this author's writing. This is the second book I think she's ever written. And the first one I really enjoyed. And the second one, I liked the story and the premise better. And I read the third one next. I just went like right into the next book. But anyway, so I gave the Strong and Wild, I gave that 4 stars. And like, again, it's like I said, it's pretty steamy. So did really enjoy that one. And I read that on Kindle Unlimited. And then the next book that I finished was In the Game. Like I said, I went straight into the third book of the series, which is the Lakes Hockey series by Sloane St. James. It's called In the Game. Now, this story features Barrett and Raleigh. Raleigh is a woman. And we actually met Barrett in both of the previous books. And they talked about his kind of obsession with this woman he had a one-night stand with, who happens to be Raleigh. So this is a secret baby trope, one-night stand secret baby trope. And Barrett is and I think he's a good-hearted, kind of good guy. Raleigh had a kind of a troubled childhood, and she didn't feel a lot of love. So when we meet her at the time that she has a one-night stand with Barrett, she's engages in one-night stands with hockey players that come in to play, like not home team players, right? Like she doesn't go home with the home team players. She goes home with the away players. She does that for a reason. So she's like, I get my affection, and then they go away. And if they come into town and hit me up, sure, maybe we'll revisit it. But so she's like really kind of strings attached and just kind of going about her life. She's really trying to get through school. She's got a lot going on, and she's just kind of trying to, like I said, get through. So she has a connection with Barrett. They kind of meet, and it doesn't, like, there's some funny like mishaps that happen where they're like, oh, this isn't a very good date, but they do really enjoy each other. And he is saying some things during their tryst that really strike a chord for her emotionally. And she chooses, like, she gives up Puck Bunny ways, like after she leaves his house. She's like, I'm done with this. Not because there's anything necessarily wrong with him. It's just some things he said. She was just like, what am I doing? So she kind of really gave that up. But she does get pregnant because of that encounter with Barrett. So she doesn't know how to reach him. He doesn't know how to reach her. She doesn't really try. No, she tries to reach out to him and is shut down, which is like part of the central drama. But he doesn't know this is happening because he doesn't actually manage his social media, and that's how she contacts him. So read the story to find out more about that kind of that tension, but that's what happened. So that part, we'll talk about that in a second. But when they get reunited, it's really interesting. I think she has a son. Yes. Okay. I confirm she has a son. Okay. So I digress. So anyway, they meet, they interact, and he really does a lot of work to gain her trust, be able to see their child, and then they do fall for each other. So really, really great story. The characters themselves were awesome, and how I don't know any hockey players, like professional hockey players at all. He read as believable, and he just read like a good guy, and also steamy, steamy in a good way. Little kind of different kind of steam than in the second book, but it was good, and really, really sweet with the child, the boy, their son, And so I really liked it. The thing that I was going to mention that was just like a little like weird to me was the kind of villain or kind of twist, like the way that just the kind of like what like was a little like that was weird. There was just kind of a weird part of the wrap up. That's all I'll say. But for the most part, I did really like this book. Give this one also 4 stars. I gave it a 3 peppers on the steamy scale. I thought it was pretty steamy. So go ahead and read that one too. So this whole series has been really good. There's another one coming out. I think it's called Stand and Defend. It's coming out soon. I'll talk about that in my upcoming new releases video that I'm excited about. So yeah, so I really like this Lakes Hockey series by Sloane St. James so far. So I recommend that one if you have not started it. Do it. It's good. Okay, so then the next book that I finished in December was Mr. Big, which is book 1 of the Mobsters of Vegas series. And this is by Bella DiCorte. So if you're not new to my channel, you know I read any book that she puts out. So this is not anything new. So Mr. Big actually is, let's see, how do I say this? So this publication of Mr. Big is an extended story from the novella in the Vows and Vendettas anthology entry that Bella DiCorte had. So it was called Mr. Big. It was just really short, so it was like really, really fast, but we did get, I think, a really good taste for that kind of tone for this kind of Vegas, Mobsters of Vegas world that she's going to create. So this got expanded. So there's some not new stuff, then there's some obviously new content because it was a longer book. I think it was 280 pages around there, 270. So the thing that I love about Bella DiCorte is that she writes a tone really, really well. So this story features Leonora and Tullio. And Leonora has Greek, like her parents are Greek, her dad is anyway. And Tullio is Italian, but they're American, right? But they meet because her brother does a job of like running some drugs for kind of a local shady guy, and Leonora thinks that guy that her brother works for Tullio. And so when they meet, he owns a casino, so she stole some money somehow on purpose so that she could get a meeting with the owner because she knows that's how that would go. So he's instantly taken with her. So rather than cutting off her hand, he's like, "You're going to marry me to pay back this debt." And she's like, "What?" So for whatever reason, they go forward with it. And the kind of world that these people live in gets really kind of created. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about it because what happens is the author Bella DiCorte, she weaves in that Tullio Bigatti, who's the kind of the hero of the story here, who is the hero of the story, was a race car driver for the Fausties in Italy. Now, again, if you're not new to my channel and you've heard me talk about the Fausties, this is kind of like her like Uber world. And so 8-book series, just like massive, huge saga, 20 plus years, like a massive world, right? But she is able to kind of connect other kind of smaller series up to the Fausties because she writes about, she'll do Italian mafia or Irish mafia, and she'll always kind of connect them somehow. So we do get cameos from some Fausties in this story too, Mr. Big. And it actually set up her new release in 2024. And I'm so excited. So Mr. Big, the story itself was really, really good. For being fairly short, I thought it was really rich. I really loved it. This is so great. 5 stars. 5 stars. I love her work. Mr. Big by Bella DiCorte. 5 stars. Get it. Okay. Let me take a drink. Hold on. This is a glass. We're trying to keep it cold. Okay. Then the next book that I read was actually an audiobook. It's Filthy Disciples by Cassandra Robbins and Serena Akeroyd. I listened to that through Everand. Now, this is Bella and Cade's story. So I've never read any of the Disciples books. I just saved it in Everand and started listening to it when I was working on my powder room. I was like wallpapering my powder room. It's still not done, but what are you going to do? So anyway, so Bella and Cade. Bella has been living in LA for like 10 years. She's been going by the name Cindy, and she's been living kind of under the protection of the Disciples MC. Now, she is addicted to pills, I think, and she interacts with the Disciples MC like, you know, they are her like found family, but that she's an addict, so she's messed a bunch of stuff up, right? Now, I don't have any of that background. I don't know their like trials and tribulations of Bella / Cindy. So I just meet her here. Okay. So she's been living in LA for like 10 years, kind of in hiding from her psychotic father. So her father is a doctor in like an orthopedic surgeon guy in New York City who actually had operated on this guy named Aidan O'Connell Jr. So if you've read any of the Filthy or the Five Points Mob series by Serena Akeroyd, he's the new head of the Irish mob of the 5 Points in New York. So that's that crossover part. So something happens to his knees. Bella's dad operates on them and basically has him walking again. He was worried he wasn't going to. So Aidan O'Connell Jr. Aidan Jr. owes Bella's father a favor. So Cade gets sent to LA to find Bella. So he finds her working at a diner and is instantly like taken with her. He's been coming in for months, like watching her, but he's just like, oh, she's freaking gorgeous. This is my job. What do I do? But so he's been kind of watching her. She knows he's a kind of a regular at this diner. But when the story connects them, like they start interacting, he saves her from a potentially kind of dangerous situation. He ends up taking her to the hospital after she kind of ODs on some pills, and gets in her good graces. She kind of owes him, and they start spending time together. And so he convinces her to run away from LA with him back to New York. And she's like, you know, I feel really safe with this guy. It's been 10 years. Let me just do it. Even though she's like really scared to be around her father again. Well, he's lying to her the whole time. So he convinces her to go to New York, meet his family, stay at his place. He's trying to figure out how he's going to get her to, or how he's going to get Aidan Jr. to see his side of the story and Bella's side of the story, that her father's actually psychotic and she shouldn't be turned over to him. So basically she's lying to him. She's lying to him. She finds out, she freaks out, and then the story works out and gets resolved however it gets resolved, right? So I really liked the story. It was not original. It was like a little weird for me just because, again, like I said, I haven't read any of the Disciple stories. I don't know about her because she's obviously a side character in other of the Disciples books. I don't know that. So I'm like, okay, she seems like kind of a messed up lost girl, but whatever. And then he's like lying to her. It was like really steamy. It was a little bit of insta love just based on kind of how the story kicked off. So anyway, like I've said a few times, because of this backstories and these other about Cindy / Bella is in these other Disciples books, which I haven't read, I felt a little lost about. Like, I'm like, why is she so bad? Like, what has she done? So it was a little detracted for me. So I wouldn't recommend reading this without having read the Disciples books. And I'm somebody who hasn't read a lot of the the 5 Points Mom books either. I think the last one I read was another crossover, but it was a Serena Akeroyd crossover. So it wasn't like Cassandra, Robbins, Serena. So anyway, I'm totally resisting Serena Akeroyd books. So anyway, I gave this book 3.5 stars. It was steamy. The writing was good. The story was decent. It was just a 3.5 star story. So then the next book that I read was the latest from Ilsa Madden-Mills called My Darling Bride. This came with a free Audible download in Kindle Unlimited. So I said, add to cart. Yes, I will be adding this to my library. And I downloaded it and listened to it. Now, I love that. I love when there's a free Audible download with a KU book. Love it. So if I like the author and they have that author, like Pippa Grant does that a lot, do it. Love it. More authors should do it, right? So this story is part of, I don't think it's actually technically a series, but it is the next book after The Beauty and the Baller and The Princess and the Player. So this is called My Darling Bride. So this story is about Emmy and Graham. Now, Emmy is a bookstore manager living in New York City with her family, and he's a professional football player actually for the New York professional football team. Okay. But they meet in Tucson, Arizona in this like desert, I would give it maybe 2 stars of a motel. She is at that motel fleeing her ex-boyfriend. So they were in Vegas for a wedding. She finds out he had been tracking her or something crazy like that. And he was cheating on her. And so she was like, forgot this. And so she takes off, doesn't tell him where she's going. And so she just pieces out to, I don't know how she found this motel, but she's in Tucson. That's why she's all the way out there and not outside of New York, right? Graham is like recovering from an injury. He had been injured in the Super Bowl game that he won for his team, where he died on the field. Whoa. So dies on the field. Obviously they resuscitate him, but while he's, dead on the field, he has a vision of a woman. And it's just like in that vision, he experiences feeling really at peace and at home and like warmth and love and blah, blah, blah. And he's on a road trip because there's aspects of what he saw that kind of drew him out to the desert. So he's driving his like Lotus, some like real fancy $200,000 car, right? And goes to this motel. They interact where she's like pretends that he's her boyfriend to kind of push off a really aggressive hotel guest who like is coming onto her really hardcore. And she's like, oh, hey, there's my boyfriend. And yeah, so they're like friendly that way, but like he was cool. He figured out what was going on, and he was kind of a white knight in that moment. And anyway, later she finds out that her obsessed ex-boyfriend, he doesn't think that they're ex, but she broke up with him. He found where she is and he's coming to the motel. And so she's like, I gotta go. So she takes Graham's keys, drives his car to the airport, flies back to New York. Well, while the car is at the airport, it gets vandalized. So Graham goes back to New York to find her. I don't know how he knew where she was, but he did. I don't remember, but he did. So they both like live in New York, right? So I need a drink. Okay. So when we get back to New York, we meet Emmy's family. We meet all of the people she works with. And he basically finds her at the bookstore where she is a manager, like I said, and is like, either marry me or pay me back for this car. Now he needs to get married to access his inheritance. Okay. So there's more to that, but read the book and you'll figure out why. Okay. So I really have enjoyed each of the stories, like these interrelated stories, Beauty and the Baller, The Princess and the Player, and now My Darling Bride. I did really enjoy it. And I thought the audible narration was really good as well. I have not been loving audiobooks lately. I know I listened to 3. That's the most I've listened to. And I'm not joking you, 6 months. Like, I think the last one I listened to before that was Still Beating. Now, I've been listening to some Nikki Sloane because they're free on Everend. And I've been having a hard time. So not really loving the Audible or the audiobook situation, but this was really, really enjoyable. So I do recommend this book here. This is 4 stars. I like this author's writing. The side characters were interesting. I'm looking forward to the next one. I have a feeling it's going to be an interesting couple who don't like each other, enemies to lovers kind of a thing. It's interesting, but no word on that. I just have a feeling, right? So, again, My Darling Bride by Ilsa Madden-Mills, 4 stars. Okay, so then I read Sable Peak. This is Eden's book number 6. This is by Devney Perry. So this follows Mateo and Vera. Now, this is a single dad age gap trope. So she's like 21. He's 28-ish. He's not quite 30. Or maybe he's just 30. Anyway, she's 21. Okay. So he has a daughter from a previous relationship. And she has been living in the forest with her father, who was on the run from the law. We knew about that from the previous book, which was what? What was that one? Was it Garnet Flats? I think it was Garnet Flats. Yeah, Garnet Flats. That's where we meet Vera. So this is her story. So Vera comes to Quincy, Montana with her friend. Hold on. Okay, figured it out. Like, kind of digging the hair. Okay, so Vera, in book 5 of the Eden story in Garnet Flats, she is reunited with her dad's friend Vance, and decides to come to Quincy with him. So he's living with Vance and Lila. She's living with Vance and Lila. And she does it for a while until she moves into the loft apartment at the Elder Eden's place. So like Mama, Papa Eden's. So she's living there. So because she lives there, she gets to interact with Mateo a lot because he comes there and like leaves his daughter with her grandmother. So she sees him a lot. She's got a huge crush on him. Okay, huge crush on him. They interact. They're friendly. He's like, oh, she's cool, whatever. Goes about his life. And this goes on for a couple of years until one night they're all out at the bar, like all the Edens are out at some bar. And Mateo is at the bar, like talking with some women who she like puts her hand on him and he's, engaging with her, smiling, like flirting, whatever. And Vera's like, F this. And so she's like, stands up, kisses him, and says, I'm tired of waiting for you to see me. Then walks out. So this whole like build up to that is called Before. So apparently the thing that all that was before was her was Vera kissing Mateo. So then the next part is called After. So it's like there's a before the kiss and then an after the kiss. So Mateo gets kissed by Vera. That opens something up for him. And so he starts to really think about her and look at her differently. And really does a lot to kind of win her over, really get like in a deeper kind of not friend relationship with her. And she's distrustful because she's like, whatever, dude, it's been 2 years. Like, let's be friends. Like, And so she doesn't trust that he really has feelings for her. So he has to do a lot to really kind of get in a relationship with her. So it's kind of nice to read, like a woman doesn't want to be wooed like that, right? So it's nice. And then there is the kind of wrapping up of the suspense aspect of the series with respect to her dad, Cormac. So they do wrap that up. And overall, I found this to be a really pretty satisfying story. This is one of my favorite books in the series, but I have to say that isn't saying much. Because I've read 4 of the 6. I didn't read the first 2. I don't have any desire. I've read enough about the first 2 couples. I don't need to read their stories. I don't care. So starting with the book 3, I don't know what that was called, to Jasper Vale, to Garnet Flats, to Sable Peak. Garnet Flats and Sable Peak were my favorite. And the thing that's interesting about this story is that there is some suspense to it, but if you take that out, if you take that that suspense out, I don't think this would be very interesting books. I don't think these would be very interesting stories, because it's just kind of like they get to know each other. So there's like an exterior tension and drama, like suspense, that gives the book some interest. So I don't know. I do give this book 4 stars, but I don't know. Devney Perry's books are like, they're fine. She writes well. It's just the stories themselves. I don't know. There could be improvement there. So if you like the series, you'll like this. This is the conclusion to the Eden series. They do set up the second generation at the end of Sable Peak, so keep that in mind. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I didn't look into it. I was just like, I think there's going to be second generation. Great. Let's move on, right? Okay, so let's talk about the next book that I finished in December. So I finished P.S. You're Intolerable by Julia Wolf. This is book 3 in the Harder They Fall series. This story follows Catherine and Elliot. Catherine goes by Kit. This is a workplace boss assistant single mom trope. So in this story, the story opens up and Kit is already pregnant. She's pregnant by a friend of hers that is their roommates that she's bought a house with, and they're going to flip it for profit. The guy friend, she doesn't have any interest in him, but they just happen to get to have a tryst that they were both probably like, it was a one-time thing, and she falls pregnant. And he convinces her to keep the baby, then starts to flake out on a bunch of stuff, and then takes off. And she's like, great. So she ends up getting a job at Elliot's, it's Levy Development. He's the CEO. They have like an interesting first meeting, like a little bit of a meet cute, where she goes for the interview. Then they interview. He hires her as his assistant. And everybody that she meets on her first day is like, ooh, good luck. Like, he's a really tough boss to work for. But she's really tenacious and really keeps him in his place, and keeps him kind of in line on schedule, is really competent, does her job well. He's really, really likes having her as his assistant. The thing that's funny, just it goes back to the title, is so every day he wants her to handwrite his schedule. So she writes his schedule, and at the end of it, she writes a postscript that is something like, P.S. You're intolerable. P.S. Your Android is showing. P.S. I would never want to spend time with you outside of work. Something clever, right? And then she cuts it off and puts it in an envelope that she keeps in her desk drawer behind a box of tampons. Now, she's like, okay, they'll be behind a box of tampons because people will not look anymore past, like, behind tampons. But she's pregnant, so she doesn't, so she never uses them. So it's just like a prop to get people to kind of stop. If they're going to snoop in her drawers, she figures they won't snoop. So anyway, that's kind of part of the plot line. But so Catherine or Kit, she gets into kind of a tough spot at this house that she's living in because she doesn't have any money and they haven't finished the house. And the guy, her friend that bailed out on her, had hired a contractor they couldn't afford. And the contractor apparently was like, I need my money. So he takes all the stuff out of the house. I didn't know that was a thing. So I've got to, if that's a thing, be careful hiring people for renovation because she has no flooring. I don't even think she has any like fixtures in her kitchen, something where the house is like almost unlivable. So this happens like right as she goes on maternity leave. So she's got this new baby in this house that's kind of unlivable. So while she's on maternity leave, Elliot's miserable with the temp backup assistant that Kit brought on. And so for whatever reason, Elliot goes to her house, sees that she's living in these conditions, and is like, you're staying in my place. And she's like, what do you mean? Now she's imagining he lives in some like penthouse, modern skyscraper monstrosity, but it turns out he lives in like a pretty nice family home. So it's like very comfortable and she loves it. She's like, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Says that a lot in the story. And then he really shows his true affection for her while she's at his house with her baby. And, their relationship deepens kind of really around this time. And I did like this story. I thought that was like, there was lots of aspects of the story that were cute, sincere. I do like this author's writing. So it was really, she wasn't weak writing or anything, but there was part of it where it was like, now I know this is the story, so I always do this like weird thing, but this is how my mind is thinking about the story. It's like, would they really ever get together if she didn't live with him? Like, would that ever have happened? I don't know. And that thought has me think like maybe like their chemistry wasn't actually that well crafted prior to her going to maternity leave. So it's kind of like that could have been done a little bit better just so that you're like, oh, this is really natural. It seemed a little like, okay, sure, your boss is going to have you live in his house. Come on. So anyway, I gave this 4 stars just because I do like the story. But there was, like I said, parts of it that just were a little like, okay, sure, we'll go with it. Let's now talk about, so again, 4 stars for P.S. You're Intolerable by Julia Wolf. Okay, so let's talk about Among the Heather by Samantha Young. This is book 2 in the Highlands series. This story follows North and Arya. So Arya is the manager of the Ardnach estate for the rich and famous. And North is a Hollywood actor. He's Scottish, but he's made it big in Hollywood. Now he's hiding out at Ardnach. There's a scandal that he is hoping will die down. Something that happened when he was a child. Now, they don't get along. She's like kind of bitchy to him when she meets him because he's a famous actor. And her father is a famous director. And in her life, she's been used a couple of times to get to her father. And so she's really like, oh, God, actors are crap for that reason. Which is weird because there's a lot of actors that come through this. So it's funny that that's the rationale is given for why she's crappy to him. It's like, why is she just crappy to everybody? Because everybody's an actor. Okay. Well, not everybody, but he's not the only one, right? So he's taken with her like immediately, but is like put off by her attitude toward him, like rightly so. But he still kind of can't stop thinking about her. Because I guess she's like super beautiful. Now, again, this isn't a character who is described as she's beautiful and she's overweight. The author doesn't go into a bunch of detail to like how overweight she is, which I appreciated. But that's part of her characterization is that she's overweight. So North as a character I really liked. He was like pretty down to earth. He had been orphaned. His parents both died. He had a series of foster families and he had a really good some good ones, some bad ones. Doesn't sound like he was like super traumatized other than like his parents dying. So he's got that tough background. And what else? Oh, he's also a songwriter. So he can sing really well and write songs. He's so taken with her that he starts writing songs about her. So they are like I said, she's kind of crappy to him. So they have kind of a contentious relationship until one night. So her sister had come into town from LA. Sister's like 10 years younger. Is like, I want to quit school. I'm an artist. People already buy my stuff. Arya's like, don't do that because you'll regret it. La la la. But the sister's 19, so she's kind of a brat. So the sister, I think it's Allegra. Yes, kind of bad with names of these characters. Allegra. She's Allegra. She notices the tension between Arya and North and takes it upon herself to draw them into the library one night and lock them in there. And there's no egress. So it's kind of dangerous. Like if something were to happen, like some fire, they would die in a fire. So they end up, I think they get physical in this scene. Then they start to kind of have a friends with benefits scenario. Mostly because she likes him, but she doesn't want to get her heart broken. And she's like super convinced that he's gonna fail her. And he's just like goes with it because he does care for her and he does want to have any kind of relationship with her that he can. So, and then there's some other drama that happens that honestly was fine, but if you had taken it out, it would have been, it's like, it's kind of tacked on at the end. And part of so I gave this book 3 stars. So I gave this book 3 stars. Why did I give it 3 stars? So like I said, the ending kind of drama was tacked on. And also her real hesitation to be in a relationship with him had to do with her, trauma, I guess we'll call it, from getting burned by these previous boyfriends, using her to get to her father, And also she had a hang up about her weight. Now she's described as stunningly beautiful, but she's overweight. Okay. Are we still doing this, authors, where women who are stunningly beautiful are insecure because they're overweight? We're still doing this. I think this is not untrue in life, but like this day and age, like it's way more acceptable, way more likely that like a, super hot guy is going to be interested in a kind of overweight woman than like when I was freaking college. Man, it's freaking terrible. I was in college during freaking late 90s heroin chic. Like I looked like this and it was just like, I felt like massive. And this day and age, like, no, come on, stop doing that. It was, first of all, it's weird at this point. Like, accept the like body positivity situation, which I have some feelings about, but for the most part, like somebody's 30, 40 pounds overweight and they're stunningly beautiful. They're still going to be stunningly beautiful. They're going to have big tits. So they're going to be hot, right? They're going to be hot. So that was boring. It was boring. So that's why I was like, with the drama tacked on at the end, the rest of the story would boil down to her being like, I'm not good enough. And it's like boring, how stupid. So 3 stars, the writing was good, but overall it was boring. And like I was skimming through the steamy parts. The steam wasn't even enough to hold my interest. I can't believe I'm being generous for 3 stars then, but yeah, not great. I don't recommend. Okay. So then the last book that I finished in December was Irresistibly Perfect by J. Saman. This is book 2. I believe this is the Irresistible series. Let me check. Hold on. Okay, so this is book 2 in the Irresistibly Yours series by J. Saman. This is a best friends, 2 lovers, second chance romance. This story follows Grayson and Fallon. They were childhood friends, to lovers, to estranged friends, to lovers. So, and this is also second chance, like I said. So Grayson is a rock star who came from money. So his family is very wealthy, but he's a rock star on his own. And Fallon is the daughter of political, like senators who have ambitions to be in the White House. So she has a lot of obligations she has to fulfill. So she has obligations to fulfill because of the nature of her parents, her family's, being movers and shakers in politics. So she, the kind of story really ramps up with her having ended a 3-year relationship with a lawyer guy that her parents introduced her to, who were really like pushing her to be with. And because of an affair that Fallon's mom had with Grayson's dad, she's forbidden from being Grayson's friend. Okay, so they don't see each other for a few years. She's in Boston. He comes back to Boston. He sees her. Oh, it's set in Boston. He sees her at a diner, and she's like there with her fiance, and he's like, "I'm gonna get her back. I'm gonna get her back." So when she breaks up with her fiance, who she breaks up with for, I think, good, legitimate reasons, he's a terrible person, and she finds out the nature of his terribleness, and so she ends it. She proceeds to get drunk and call him and just be like, I'm gonna go find myself. I ended my engagement. I'm gonna go find myself. I'm hopping on a plane to Europe. So she goes to Rome, and Grayson ends up getting a seat on that plane, on that flight, right? And so he is going to Rome with her. He actually has to be in Paris like a week later to perform in a music festival. So they spend a week together, and he is equal parts wanting to just get back into her life, period, and then also make her fall in love with him. So that's really the bulk of this story. So I don't remember why I picked this up. I've had books by this author in my TBR for, I don't know, a year. I don't know why I finally read it in book 2. I just was like, okay, this looks good. It was, I would say it was good. It was cute. It was like, nothing special, nothing crazy. 3.5 stars. I did like the writing. I did like the characters, but the kind of characterization was fine. Like, they were good, interesting people to read about. It's just like kind of the backgrounds and this families and that kind of stuff was just like, all right, whatever, it's fine. So, it's fine. If it sounds interesting to you, read it. If it doesn't, you're not missing out. So those are the 10 books that I read in December of 2023. Let's take a moment to acknowledge how far we've come in the room. Okay, so if you're new to my channel, the room I'm filming in used to be purple and gray. So the wall behind me was a very saturated purple, like not quite a lavender, not like a deep purple, but like a light purple, but it was really saturated. And I was just like, oh. And then these side walls were this like slate gray. It's terrible. So we got our flooring replaced. So in preparation for having that done, it was just like a week and a half ago, I painted the rooms. So, and in preparation for filming, I set up my the rest of my room. Super happy about it. Let's see what happens if I pull this camera up. So check it out. I have a wall hanging. I have new curtains. I have that awesome light. I have some stuff on the wall. I don't have my books back yet. They're still in my garage, but yay. So thanks again for visiting my channel. Thanks for, this is like almost an hour. Thanks for listening to me ramble about 10 books for almost an hour. Appreciate it. I'll be back at you with some other content coming soon. 2024, I'm really excited for. There's gonna be a lot going on for my family and me, and I may continue to film and read. So congratulations to everybody who made it through 2023. Welcome to 2024. Thanks for going on this journey with me. It's just starting. So, all right. Have a great new year, and hope everybody had a safe, fun celebration, and that everybody's looking forward to the 2024 and what we can all accomplish.